I'll let you read these. Have you ever heard trees calling to you? Lily, I must turn you down, honey. You're going to pipe in for me. You have trees calling to you all the time. For they are the ones that call in the rain. And the time has come for us to awaken that these are living, breathing, and emotional beings. So I'm going to go back to my beginning journey here. And I grew up in the Sierras. In the Sierras, I feel I was partially hardened off, for I lived along amongst loggers and all kinds of industry. I've been a builder for 25 years, and with that, I've cut my own trees, I've harvested them, I've sold them, and all part of the practice of commodity of the tree. And so I had a different perspective, for I was kind of drawn into that world with what I did, for the need. But none of it was ever replaced to the earth, and that's what we needed to do. For every tree taken, there should be at least 4 planted, and there never has been that kind of harmony with the earth. And so I feel that I was lost there as well. And here's something else that really might get you, it got me, as I moved down here, and the bumper sticker on my truck said, "Earth first, we'll log the other planets later." I'm ashamed of that now, but that's where I was at that time. And this is all part of opening and blossoming to who we are. That was 15 years ago. And so when I got down here, I listened to KPFA radio. And this woman was on the radio. And I kept saying, what is she doing? What a crazy woman up there in this tree. What is she trying to prove? I didn't understand it until I listened to her every day, for that channel became my life source. And so did she, because she talked about how connected she was to that tree and her depth in that tree, and how Luna would speak to her and communicate with her and protect her in these vicious storms and the vicious attacks of people that would come up there and try and pull her out of the tree and knock her out of the tree. And she was actually protected in many ways by this tree, and told that I will protect you. I read her book, Legacy of Luna, and it really shook me. I read it to my 5-year-old daughter, and when she was 7, we drove up there and found this tree and did our own ceremony. It was pretty cool. This picture was taken of Julia last year, and my daughter and her had quite a conversation. It made an impact on her. She's 11 now, and her horse is named Julia Butterfly Hill. And here's some of the books that she did put out. And she was a big influence in my life. For when I met her, I actually met her in person when she came out after 2+ years. It was a little over two years she stayed in that tree. And let me remind you, you imagine up in the high northern coastline, there's severe weather. She endured storms and snow and sleet and rain and extreme heat, and also vicious attacks, helicopters, everything. So she did things I don't think many people could even do today. Most men couldn't do. And so I'm really proud of her. She really rocked me with her strength and endurance with that. And so I met her up at, it's coming to me, Hopland at Soulfest, and she gave us a talk there when she came out of the tree. And it was so touching and so moving, I had to go talk to her afterwards, and I literally cried in her arms. I told her who I was and what I had done and how much she moved me, and she just gave me a hug and said, "Go on your journey now." I didn't know what that meant at the time, but I do now. So it kind of moved me and took me in a direction of newness and renewing for me. I stopped cutting trees in that sense. Here's some other source books that I put in here as well that are very influential to me. And The Secret Life of Plants is a fantastic, easy read book that gives history of plant communication that goes back thousands of years up to recent times. It was written in the 60s, and a very, very wonderful book. Has a lot of great information in it. Another one here is Anastasia's series. Now Anastasia, I should pronounce it correctly, the Russian name. It's a Ringing Cedar series in Russian. I don't know if any of you are familiar with that, but it's a very powerful series of books. And during book 2, I really literally felt her touching my shoulder and caressing me. She was there. And she speaks of times of of our past and how to connect with trees as well, and how she connects to them and drawing energy from them and learning how to energize herself and get answers and talk through them and communicate, and bears raising her children and all kinds of fun things. One thing she taught me that really stuck with me is the communication through plants and the symbiotic relationship we have with plants. And that is that they're there for us. They're there in harmony with us. We have to respect them in that sense. You know what the loudest screaming living thing is today? And they've just tested this? A carrot. A carrot being pulled from the ground is the loudest screaming being on the planet. Isn't that amazing? How they measured, I don't know, but that's very true. So think about that, you know. But it's living in harmony with them, giving blessing, giving thanks and creation for it. She says, in order to live with this, you need to take the seed that you want to plant and you place it under your tongue for 9 minutes. This puts the DNA of your body onto the seed. Then you plant the seed in the soil. Do not water it for 48 hours. You place a bucket of water outside your front door, and as you come in the evening, you step into that water and rinse your feet. That gives the toxins of your body into the water, and that'll be the first watering after 48 hours. And when you're finished with that, the plant will grow in harmony for you and heal whatever's ailing in your body. Here is something that I grew that way last year. When I came back from France after my second trip, this was sitting in my front yard on my tomato plant. And I thought somebody had set it there because it was just so unusual and just sitting out there looking at me as I came home. And I walked over and it was still connected and it was live and fresh on this plant. And it's a beautiful tomato with a face on it. And I just thought, oh my God, this is really a special treat because it was grown for me. So I had a really great awakening, and part of it is following your bliss inside. And what I had to do is let go of my old and release myself. Jan came to me in March and said, Bruce, we need a male energy to go with us in France to do some of the light work that we're going to be doing, and I feel you're the one to go. And I said, and I wasn't too sure about that, and I fought it within myself, for I always told myself, I can't do that. I can't afford it. I was at a place without work at the moment, and it was just one of those places where I just refused to go because of my fears. And finally, after her persistence, bless her heart, she influenced me that I need to do this, and I did. And it was the best thing that ever happened to me. And I want to express that we need to follow those things that pop into our life and are calling us, because that is what we're really here for. We're not here for all the distractions, because there's so many of those around us. We're here to follow those blisses that we have. And sometimes we can't afford it, but it needs to happen. She's speaking for me right now. So we went to France. And the story I'm about to tell you was opening for me, a life-changing story. And it was really amazing. So we arrived in France, and I was taking in all this wonderful energy. And I met another friend of yours from France. Her name was Lowe's. And I didn't recognize her in the beginning, but we all sat and had breakfast, and we had an agenda. We were going to go to Pirellius, this cave, and do some ceremony. And as we were approaching this rocky, rough dirt road, and it was foggy and misty, and it was really kind of eerie, and we're driving through and didn't really know quite where we were. We got lost a couple times getting up the top of the hill. But as we got there, I was in the passenger side of the car, and I started going into shakes. And I felt convulsions. I was in tears. I couldn't control myself. I was shaking. It was almost like I was going to get sick and vomit. I got really ill. And I just said, stop the car right by this tree. It was the only tree in the area, basically, the plane trees that they have. And I got out, and I had to go over and grab this tree. As you see, I'm hugging this tree. And I started feeling the presence that this is a place I've been to before. And I turned around and I said, Lilla, come with me. Well, this girl's name wasn't Lilla, it was Lowe's. I said, for I want to show you the well. And when I said Lilla, she kind of clicked. Something went, oh my God, I think I knew that name. And I started calling her Lilla from that point forward. It really kind of mind-blowing to me, because I never experienced it before.